down low to that bottom step as you can, because sleep is the ultimate level of relaxation. At least it should be. Okay, so if you can fall asleep in between contractions, sleep is a natural anesthetic. So during the contraction, you will climb the steps. And in between contractions, you want to climb back down the steps and relax. If you don't, you'll climb a few steps during that contraction and maybe go down one step. And then you'll climb a few steps and then go down 1 or 2 steps. And you'll climb a few steps. And before you know it, you're this screaming ball of knots up here. So make sure, especially during active labor, that you come back down that staircase after each contraction. When do you start relaxing? As soon as that contraction starts going down and your uterus starts relaxing, follow it. Follow it all the way down. Relaxation breathing is the same breathing that you do while you're asleep. Now, husbands, observe her while she's asleep at some point between now and the time she has the baby. Okay? See how she breathes. That's how you're going to tell her to breathe in labor. Most people, if you imagine an old man snoring, okay? That's the kind of breathing an old man will do while he's snoring. Now take out the sound and just breathe in deep. Now don't we breathe in very deep when we're sleeping? Don't we relax the back of our throat, which is what causes some people to snore? Everything is completely relaxed. We're breathing in slowly and we're breathing out slowly. We're exchanging air, getting lots of oxygen. That's the kind of breathing you do when you're trying to relax during labor. The Lamaze method of childbirth will teach a kind of breathing that's a deep chest breathing, where you breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. And you do that in early labor. When labor starts getting harder, you breathe in 2, 3, out 2, 3. When it gets even harder, you're breathing in 2 seconds and out 2 seconds. In transition, you're going in 1, out 1. And then, when labor hurts and it's the strongest it's going to be, you're going he. And they're having you say the word he and breathe through your teeth. Well, to me, that mimics panic. When somebody is panicked, their breathing speeds up, their heart rate speeds up, and they get this big-eyed look and and you know what Lamaze tells you to do about that? Bring a bag. Bring a paper bag and put it over your face so you don't hyperventilate. Why? Why hyperventilate? Why have the bag? There's nothing natural about that. I say, slow down your breathing. And when I was having my first baby, my husband and I took Lamaze classes. We had to back then in order to get him into the delivery room. He had to have a ticket that said he had completed the class, he had watched the gory movie, and he didn't faint. So now he's allowed to go into the delivery room. So we get into the delivery, or just about the time that I go to 10 centimeters and I start getting the urge to push and all this stuff, and they're telling me, don't push because the doctor's not here, and blah, blah, blah. Everybody, there's this scenario, I've heard it a million times. I had my paper bag on my face, and I was hee-heeing into this paper bag, and this big, hefty nurse comes in and she says, "Girl, what you got on your face?" And I said, "This is my paper bag that my Lamaze teacher told me to bring in case I hyperventilated, and I'm hyperventilating." She goes, "Why are you hyperventilating?" And I said, "I don't know, I just am. I'm breathing this way." And she says, "It's because you're breathing too fast." She goes, "Come here. Come here. You listen to me." She put her arm around me And she goes, breathe in, slow it down, slow it down. No, this is what I was taught in Lamaze. You speed it up, the faster labor gets. She goes, girl, I had 7 babies, you listen to me. And so I mean, she had authority. I was only 19 years old, and I started listening to her. And I started breathing slower and slower. And I remember saying, oh my gosh, that feels so much better. I mean, the pain started to go away. Because when you're hyperventilating and you're breathing fast and you're panicked, what are you? Ugh. You're up at the top of the staircase. So quite often when I'm coaching women in labor, I always tell them, slow down your breathing. Keep it slow, just like you're sleeping. Sleep breathing is what Dr. Lamaze calls it, Dr. Bradley. Dr. Bradley calls it sleep breathing. So we're breathing in slowly, we're breathing out slowly. We're staying relaxed. All right? I have a model coming in at 7:30, and I'm going to show you some labor positions that we can use. I want to tell you something about labor positions. You don't need me or anybody else to tell you what position to get in labor. If you follow your instincts, you'll know what position to get in. Here's the rules. The position you're in should be the one that makes the contractions last the longest and hurt the most. That's the position you should be in, because where is the pain coming from? You know, where's the pain coming from? What's causing the pain in childbirth? What's getting pulled on? What's the contraction doing? You guys know it, you're just afraid to be wrong. I can cut you out of the tape if you're wrong. Where is the pain coming from? It's coming from the contractions, shortening the fibers in the uterus, and pulling up on that cervix. The cervix is a very, very sensitive part of the body. I have an assignment for you women. Now don't think I'm really weird. This will really benefit you, okay? When you're in the shower, examine yourself and find your cervix. Find your cervix so that you know what it feels like, so you can picture it when you're in labor. Now when you're touching your cervix, just barely touching it, you're going to know it. Because you'll feel yourself touching it. It's very, very sensitive. And for that to be pulled on is very uncomfortable. That's what we're feeling when we're having period cramps. Our cervix is opening a little bit to allow for the flow of your period. That's why you get the period cramps. It usually comes the day before and maybe the first day of your period. Some women get those very, very strong. If you suffer from severe period cramps, labor will probably be a breeze for you. It's about the same thing. The difference is that period cramps seem to be kind of spasmodic. They're just kind of always there and you don't get a lot of relief. Labor is very easy to handle because you cramp, it gets stronger, 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 and then it releases and goes down. And then it's gone. It should be gone. If it's not gone, then you're not releasing it. You have to let it go. There's only one point during labor, and we'll talk about that in a minute, where that pain doesn't go completely away. And that's actually a really good, exciting part of labor. But the contraction should be completely gone in between. Okay, so you're moving along in labor, and you start getting to the point where relaxation during the height of the contraction is nearly impossible. And, you know, there are methods of childbirth where people say you can hypnotize yourself so that you don't feel it and that sort of thing. I so far have not met somebody who can completely convince themselves that it doesn't hurt. I have not met a woman who has had a painless birth. Not yet. I don't know if it's something I'm doing wrong, but I've seen almost 1,300 women give birth. And I've not yet met somebody who had a painless birth. I've met women who have had very little pain, but there's always 1, 2, or 3 contractions at least that hurt. So they may not remember those 3 contractions and think, wow, for 5 hours I didn't hurt at all, and that's probably true. But then they had just a few contractions at the end that hurt. And then they're done, the baby comes out. And we all hate those kind of women, don't we? Okay, so there comes a time when labor gets to the point where you can't relax. It's like making a fist with your hand and keeping the rest of your arm relaxed. Try doing it. Make a really tight fist with your hand and try to keep your arm relaxed. Can anybody do it? Okay. When that uterus is contracting up like a hard rock, it's pretty impossible to keep the rest of your body relaxed. The rest of your body is naturally going to want to tighten up with it. At this point, we want to kind of get active with our labor. To try and be a victim of the labor and try and pretend it's not there, or running away from it somehow. I've seen women that'll run up and down stairs. And they're literally trying to run away from their contraction, and that's how they deal with it. Or they'll kick their feet, or they'll clench their fists, or they'll punch a pillow or something like that. Rather than do that, rather than put your energy into things that aren't going to benefit you, what you want to do is work with the contraction and become active with it. Becoming active with it is like it's like the difference between riding a horse, moving with the rhythm of the horse's body, or sitting on the horse, holding on to the saddle horn and bouncing and trying not to fall off. Now, a good rider, especially a rider who knows their horse, who's used to their horse, becomes a part of the horse. See, on Avatar, they taught him you need to become a part of this animal. You need to connect your heart with this animal. Well, that's what we do in labor. We ride the horse, we become a part of the horse's body, just an extension of that horse. And that's what we do with the contraction. We become an extension of that contraction. Body surfing, we ride the wave. We don't let the wave crash and knock us and tumble us all the way to the beach. So that's how you get hurt. In labor, that's how you get hurt, is fighting the contraction. If you move with it and you work with it, it's actually going to feel good to you. Okay, so the way we do that is we're always going to take a deep cleansing breath at the beginning of each contraction, because there's stale air that sits in our lungs. Right now I'm only using 30 to 40% of my lung capacity, and the rest of my lungs have air sitting around that's just kind of getting stale. So everybody, I want you to try it. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Let it all the way out. Now, did you feel that? Doesn't it feel like you just had a drink of fresh water from a mountain stream? I mean, doesn't it feel like you just had a breath of fresh air? Because that's what you just did. It gets you ready to deal with the contractions. So you take a cleansing breath, let the air all out. That gets rid of all that stale air, at least most of it. And then you start your breathing. As you're breathing, we don't do the chest breathing like Lamaze, because that's actually trying to distract you. Lamaze is a self-hypnosis. In fact, hypnobirthing is a lot like the old Lamaze. You're distracting yourself. You're breathing in through your chest and out through your chest, and your contraction is down here. It's this that's contracting. So breathe with your abdomen. Breathe in, and as you're breathing out, just you drop your shoulders, you drop your body, and you let your tummy push out. So with the breath, you're breathing the baby down. What direction do we want the baby to go? That's the direction we breathe. Okay? Some people say we shouldn't rush birth. I think that there's a real big misconception here, because in my opinion, if you're not trying to rush birth, you're trying to hold it back. You're trying to lengthen it. You're trying to stall it. And we're not trying to force anything to happen that's not trying to happen. We're just trying to get out of its way and not hinder it. So as you're breathing down, concentrate on dropping the baby. Feel the contraction. Feel it pulling your cervix open. Enjoy that sensation. Enjoy the pain of it. It really is a good pain. It really is our friend. So feel the contraction, pulling open your cervix, and drop your baby down through that hole. Okay? So we're breathing in, and as we're breathing out, think of it this way, humming your baby down. Oh. These are good sounds. Even those are good sounds. Anything that's deep, it's dropping, and it's pressing down that contraction and directing it that way. Labor sounds actually help the pain to feel good. Okay, so we get to the point where we're in transition. In transition, we start feeling like crazy, like insanely, this should be illegal pain. I don't like this. I don't want to be here. I want to do anything to get away from this pain. And some people have the philosophy that a woman should be just left in a room by herself with her husband to scream and thrash and kick and throw things and rise above her pain this way, to react to the pain. And I think when you do that, you're causing yourself more pain. Never is a scream productive during first stage labor. A scream can be productive during second stage labor if you're trying to take the pressure off so the baby can move through the perineum gently. That's the only time it can be productive. But when you're screaming during labor, what do you have to do to scream? You have to tighten up and push that diaphragm, wah! And it tightens you and it makes you hurt. So if you feel like screaming, just take that energy and put it into a moan or a grunt or a hum. Okay? So, transition, the very, very hardest, most unbearable part of labor. What do we do to make it bearable? Well, you got to have your husband. Husbands, do not leave her during transition. You get your sandwich and go to the bathroom before it hits. Okay? So, very hardest part of labor is when the moaning and everything else is still working really well, but something is going to happen to you most likely, especially if the baby's down low. You're going to start getting urges to push. Those urges to push and to bear down on your baby could come, I've seen them come as early as 3 or 4 centimeters, really. I have. And in this childbirth method, there are, number 1, there are no rules. I have no rules. 2, no fads. There are so many dang fads out there that I think some of them are so ridiculous. And being in this business for 28 years, and it's been 35 years since I was pregnant with my first baby, I've seen so many fads come and go. And they come and everybody's like, oh, are you going to have your baby this way? Oh, that's the way to have your baby. And then 10 years later, they're like, that is so stupid. That's so disproven, you know, and things come in fads. Right now, you got to have a birthing ball. Doesn't everyone have to have a birthing ball? The birthing ball is great for the midwife to sit on. I love them. And there can be benefits to a birthing ball. I'm not knocking birthing balls. But who took an exercise ball and called it a birthing ball so that they can sell birthing balls to everyone who's having a baby because you can't have a baby without them? But if you're sitting on a birthing ball, imagine sitting on a birthing ball. Psychologically, we're supposed to be thinking down and out. But we're sitting on this ball that pushes on our pelvic floor and puts pressure on our pelvic floor. And so we're trying to think down and out, but at the same time, we're blocking the baby. So if you want something to hold on to while you're kneeling on the floor, okay, great, use your birthing ball. But to think that you're going to sit on this ball and roll around and that's going to make your hips open up and the baby's going to come out easier, baloney. Sit on the toilet. What does the toilet do? When you're sitting on the toilet, you're thinking down and out, are you not? Who doesn't think down and out when they're on the toilet? That's where you sit. Sit on the toilet. Sit on something where you're thinking open, relaxation, dropping something, letting something out, letting something go. The toilet's great. Squats are great. All kinds of positions are great. But you want positions. In every position in labor, you want your pelvis open. You want to curl around the baby. You want to direct it downward. Okay, so transition. Let's say you're starting to get urges to push and you're only 6 or 7 centimeters. That's about when most people get it. 6, 7, 8. They start getting urges to push. So the textbooks say you can't push. Now I've seen something really funny happen several times as a doula in the hospital. A woman's here, she's getting these strong urges to push. And the nurse is saying, you can't push till you're 10 centimeters. You will rip your cervix. You will damage your cervix will swell and all these other things. They're being told, do not push. And this woman is like, I can't help it. I have to push. And the nurse is yelling at her. Then guess what? The doctor comes in, checks her. Oh, you're only 8 centimeters. Hey, give me a little push. The doctor now just contradicted what the nurse said. Because he knows that if she pushes, she'll go to 10 centimeters and she'll have her baby. But now he's there. The reason she couldn't push before is because the doctor wasn't there, and they don't want the baby to come out before the doctor gets there. Last night, I was at a birth in the hospital as a doula, and the woman was 9 centimeters. She's 9 centimeters. An hour later, she's still 9 centimeters. She's going through horrendous contractions, and she's still 9 centimeters. The doctor comes in and checks her and says, well, and I asked the nurse, is it a tight 9 centimeters or a loose 9 centimeters? She goes, it's a loose 9 centimeters. Well, do you think maybe if she pushed, it would, the head would come and it'd slip over? She goes, oh, I don't think that we should do that because the head is still sitting kind of high. We need to wait for the head to come down before she can push. Now, what is crazy about that statement? She's getting the urge to push. We got to wait for the head to come down before she can push. So anyway, okay, I don't want to cause any waves. We'll just leave it at that. The doctor comes in and checks her an hour later. She's still 9 centimeters. And he says, well, at this point, some people believe that it's okay, that a woman would benefit by pushing with the contractions. But then some people believe that that would just cause more problems. So I guess you decide what you believe, and he walks out. So I said to the girl, you want it to be 9 centimeters for very much longer? She goes, no. And I said, okay, let's push past it. So we pulled her knees up and had her push. And the nurse came in a few minutes later. She was 10, and she went into second stage and started pushing her baby out. She would have been 9 centimeters for who knows how long. The baby was ready to come, and her body was getting urges to push. The nurse wouldn't let her because she was 9 centimeters. You know what 9 centimeters means? That means you have this much cervix, half a centimeter, all the way around the baby's head. That's nothing. How are you going to hurt that? A woman who doesn't have an epidural is not going to hurt herself. And a horse that's out in the pasture having a baby, nobody's sticking their fingers in there to tell the horse you're 10 centimeters and you can push now. The horse's back is going to curl up, it's going to stick its tail under like this, and it's going to start pushing whenever its body is telling it to. So please, no rules. If you're feeling something, go with it. Your body's trying to rotate your baby through the pelvis so that it can come down. And sometimes contractions don't do that by themselves. Sometimes the mom needs to push to rotate that baby. That's why we have those little pivot points in the pelvis. Okay, my model's here. We're going to show you some positions in labor. and some of the things that these positions do. Okay, does anybody need to go potty or get a drink first? No? Okay. All right. Grabbed a couple pillows. Pillows are always really nice. Now, should we put, well, the reason I brought Janae is because I knew that if I brought one of my daughters, they would think it was embarrassing to get into labor positions. And Janae's not embarrassed to get into labor positions, and neither will you guys once you're ready for childbirth. But we'll start with her standing up, okay? So Janae, just pretend that you've got a, oh, the chair?
The chair.
Why don't we just use one of these chairs? Okay. So Janae, these contractions, now, labor positions, if your labor isn't going very strong and you want to get it to pick up, try different positions, because if you find the right positions, then your labor could kick right in. I remember one birth where the woman was walking around. She was like 4 or 5 centimeters walking around. She thought she needed to walk to get labor going. And I said, why don't you try laying on the side that the baby kicks on? So she laid on her side. Her labor just became brutal right away, and she had the baby a half hour later. So, okay, so you're standing. What's a good position while you're standing?
Well, if you have a bed or a chair or something, you can, depending on how you want to be, you can lean over this way, but then...
You're always going to open your legs.
Yeah.
Labor positions with your legs closed
don't keep your feet right underneath you.
Every position, open your legs, okay? Every position, bend your knees. Every position.
So you can kind of see my pelvis is straight right now, like I just tipped over. I'm going to curl it under. So now I have a belly here, and I'm kind of sandwiching like my ribs would be, not like your ribs are already pushing on your belly, but kind of a little bit more.
Her heavy belly is going to naturally make her pelvis like this, because it's going to kind of round your back this way, all right? So she's going to tip her pelvis under, which is going to lift up the pubic bone. Now let me show you what that does with the baby. Okay, if her pubic bone is up, the baby, it's going to be right in the way of the baby falling down. So as she tips, the baby can come down into there better, into the pelvis. Okay, so it also opens up. There's a huge amount of room down in here in this sacral dish. Huge amount of room. And if you're bypassing that and trying to bring the baby straight through, you're not doing yourself much of a favor. You want to use that huge amount of space right there instead of coming and bypassing that, okay? All right, so...
Liz,
Yes.
make a suggestion here. If you're going to show, go to the other side and do the pelvis, because I can't see on this side.
Okay. All right. So a good way, if you have a bed post, you can grab onto the bed post, bend your knees, go down, tip the pelvis, and bring your chin forward like that during a contraction. This also opens up your back to where somebody can push on your back, or they can do the hip squeeze, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, you can also put your arms around your husband's neck and use him to hang on like that, okay?
And then he can grab underneath your arms and just support you.
You don't have to do these positions, but if you want your baby to come fast, this opens the pelvis and lets that contraction do the most work. Why would we want to rush a birth? Why would we not want to hinder it and make it last longer? Because we don't want to get exhausted. We don't want to use up all our blood sugar. We don't want to use up all our strength. When babies come and labor flows like it's supposed to, first-time moms can have 4-hour labors very easily if you just use some of these techniques. Okay? All right. So, what's next?
Squat.
Okay,
Those are
squat.
kind of most of the standing ones.
Squat is, yeah, squat is kind of the same thing, yeah.
Turn around this way. So if there was a bed or a chair that you could be next to and you want to squat down a little bit more, you just open your feet up again. And don't squat like you're sitting, like open your legs this way. And then just kind of, it's the same thing. I always have to go up my toes because I can't stay flat-footed.
Yeah, just a squat, you go all the way down.
But keep your legs really open. A lot of times women will try to squat like this. But keep your legs way open.
That opens up the pelvis. And then if you can round your back out, always round your back out. Rounding your back lifts up the pubic bone, okay?
Instead of sitting straight like this.
Now the problem with squatting is it does get hard on your legs. That's why a toilet is a good thing. If you imagine this as a toilet, okay?
It's kind of the same.
She's going to sit down. She's going to put her head on the back of the toilet. You can put a pillow there. And then your labor coach or support person can put hot towels on your back while you're having contractions, while you're sitting on the toilet. So this is a good way to save your legs and do a squatting position. Toilet, not birth ball, okay? All right. So let's try. Now some people can sit on a chair during labor, but if the head's down there, you don't want to sit on a chair. It really can hinder that head from dropping. Okay, another good position would be hands and knees.
Liz, put it over there. It's in the way.
Okay.
And you're going to open your legs out wider than your hips.
Repeat, Liz, so the microphone
Okay.
can hear it.
Another good position would be hands and knees position, and this would be a position that we would use if the baby's posterior. Sometimes it's a position that we use for an anterior lip of the cervix, meaning that the head has come down and is down so low that it's kind of pinching off a piece of the cervix between the pubic bone and the head. And so what we need is for the baby to drop a little bit down this way to release that, okay? Anyway, a posterior baby would mean that this baby of Janae's is facing downward like this. It's hanging down. It's hanging down like this, okay? The heaviest part of the baby is the baby's back. So if we're going to use gravity, when we talk about gravity in childbirth, everybody thinks that there's a straight laundry chute from the uterus to the outside world. And like I told you in the last class, I showed you how the baby rotates and moves its way around the different obstacles in the pelvis, right? There's not a straight laundry chute. The baby has to drop back against the back of the pelvis and then come back this way. So it makes a little zigzag pattern. So this baby is posterior. It should be like this, and it's not. It's like this. So if we get in hands and knees, then what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the heaviest part of the baby to flip around like this. And I've seen this position work wonders sometimes. Not all the time, but it's definitely worth a try with a posterior baby. Didn't work for you, did it, Janae? Janae's baby was born face up, but... Okay, so notice, she's got her knees spread apart, so the pelvis is open, and she's got her arms straight out. She can also do this position putting her head on the bed. You know, with your arms like that, and your head on the bed, or on your husband's lap or something like that. What we don't want to do is that. Don't do this, okay? What's going to happen when we do this? It's obvious, right? We're going to drop the baby up this way. So don't do that. There is a rare situation where this might be warranted, but it's extremely rare. So keep your arms straight. You can rock back and forth. You can rock side to side. But when you're having a contraction, tuck your tailbone under, arch your back like this, and curl yourself around your baby and direct it this way. This is a position that four-legged animals use when they're giving birth. Same reason, they're opening up the pelvis. Okay, pillows are very useful. We're going to show you the side lying position. Okay, put that one under your head. Now, she's going to lay on the side that her baby kicks on. So, we've got a baby that's laying in there like this. Okay, she's laying on the side the baby kicks on. And what is gravity going to do? Remember, the back is the heaviest part, so it's going to help flip the baby around this way. When it does that, it's like turning a screw. You're corkscrewing that baby, so the baby is coming down through here, and it helps it make that rotation to where it gets down to the bottom of the pelvis, to the outlet of the pelvis. So side lying position is really good. This is a position that I saw really pick up that labor really fast when the mom was walking around. She's walking around, baby sitting on the pubic bone. She lays on her side, the baby flips, comes right down, and no place else to go but out. Okay, when you have a contraction, remember, open up your legs, and she's pulling her knee up, which really opens the pelvis, and she's curling around the baby. Just during contractions. When the contraction is over, she can put her leg back down. Now, the reason that we have a pillow here and a pillow there is because anytime you're touching another part of your body with a part of your body, it creates an energy exchange, and for some reason, it causes you to be in more pain. So we want to separate body parts. In any position you're in, we don't really want to lay on our hand or lay like this. We want to have all our body parts separate from each other and just use pillows to separate. Okay? Let me see. We don't usually use a real common position. Put your bottom here and show them the real common hospital position. They've got you like this. They dropped the bottom of the bed. I walked into the hospital yesterday. This was the position they had her in. I rarely see this do any good. That you're thinking, okay, she's upright, gravity's bringing the baby down, right? But she's sitting right on her butt bones, sitting right on them. And that's keeping her pubic bone down. So what we want to do is we want to sit on this part of the back. And on the top of the bottom, you want to sit on that part, okay? And it's okay to be like this, to where you're semi-reclined if you want to sit up. But if that baby is riding the pubic bone, it's still not going to be good enough. And sometimes, here we go with the no rules again, okay? What's another rule in childbirth? Never put a woman flat on her back. It's a rule that you read in every natural childbirth manual. Oh, in the hospital they put women flat on their back, and that causes all these problems. But I'm telling you, there is a time and a place for it. There's no rules. You've got a baby that's trying to come down here and sitting on the pubic bone. If we want to use gravity, and we put her flat on her back, just long enough so that baby can drop down, then get her up, and the baby's right there and comes down through the pelvis. See what we're saying? Now, it depends on your situation. We don't have to put everybody on their back, but in most labors, I see this position work really well if you do it at the right time during labor, and you're only doing it for 2 or 3 contractions. And then she gets back up. Flat on the back, with the legs pulled up, with pillows under just the shoulders and the head. Okay, go for it.
The pretzel.
Yeah, we call this the pretzel. Just like this. Okay, now this is what she's doing. Put your legs back down. Okay, here's her pelvis. Now bring your legs up. She's doing this with her pelvis. Her bottom's up off the floor. And you have a baby that was like this. She lifted it up and the head came right down. This is a very, very productive labor position. And the other day, I watched a breech born in this position, and it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Cool.
This baby, this breech baby came out of the mom and stuck straight up in the air like this, and then dropped down like this, and the head just popped right out. It was like the midwife didn't even have to touch the baby. So it was pretty amazing. So this is a great position for things like this. If you're trying to get a baby down into the pelvis and it's not down very low, this will really open it up. It's a really good position at about 8 centimeters. And then once that baby comes down and into the pelvis, then she sits up more. But she sits up more and she stays seated on the back of her bottom, not right on her butt bones. Because if she's on her butt bones, then the baby can't come out, can it? So she's like this. Firm surfaces are really good for delivering babies. You don't want to be sunken into a soft bed, because if you sit on this pillow, you can see what happens when you're sunken into the soft bed. The bed comes up and there's nowhere for the baby to come out. So if you're on a soft bed, you have to either deliver on your side or on your back. Because if you're in a semi-sit like this, the baby's not going to be able to, the head will come out, but the shoulders won't come out very easily. Yeah, you'd have to go up like that. Okay, so can you think of any positions we didn't mention? We didn't do standing on your head. There's no rules, but I've never seen that one work. We've never tried it actually. Maybe it would work well.
There's like kneeling with one knee up.
Yeah.
Does that. So
Kneeling is also a good position.
kind of like this position because it's still open to
Mhm.
pelvis.
Or I've seen women just kneel. But when you kneel and you're having a contraction, go back and yeah, go back like that. Okay? Good labor positions. Thanks, Janae.
You're welcome.
You're excused now. Okay. A great position for, wait, Janae, I'll show them one more.
Okay.
Let's show them a position for turning a posterior baby before you go into labor. Remember how you lay on the edge of the bed? And you put a knee up on a chair? Do you remember that one? Okay, lay on your side. Hang your tummy over the edge of the bed. Okay, and then you're going to put this knee up on a chair. So your tummy's hanging on the edge of the bed and you watch TV that way. So to get your baby in a really good position for labor, that's a good position. Even in early labor or before you start labor. So you want to lay on the side that your baby kicks on, so it'll rotate the baby. So it'll rotate the baby around. Okay, thank you. Any questions about positions? Yeah. It's really good information to know. Now, do you need a midwife to tell you what position that you need to be in? No. Because, like I said, it's the position that makes the contractions last the longest and come the hardest. That position is the best position. Why would a good position make your labor harder and hurt more? It's because the best position is rotating the baby and bringing the head down against the cervix and applying the head to the cervix. When you have a head applied to your cervix, your contractions will be more powerful. And that's what you want. Now, here's the good news. You don't always have to be in the best position. You can do whatever you want. It's your labor. And quite often in labor, I'll tell a woman, she'll say, oh, I don't like that position. It really makes the contractions hurt. And so I'll explain to her, the reason why the contraction is hurting isn't because it's a bad position, it's because it's a good position. It's bringing the head down against your cervix, and so it's going to make you open faster. No pain, no gain in this profession. So if you want to make progress, then you get in that position. If you want to rest and not make progress but be more comfortable, then get in the position that makes you more comfortable. But just know that when you're in that position, you're not making progress, or your progress is slower. That way women are aware of what's going on in their labor and what their positions are doing for them or not doing for them. Some women will get in the positions where they're hurting a lot for a few contractions, and then they say, I just need a break. And so they'll get into the other position that's more comfortable for a couple of contractions. And then after they've taken a little break, then they go back into the good position. And that way you're the one who's driving your labor, not somebody else who's telling you, you need to do this because I want to get home sooner. Okay? So, positioning when it comes to pushing your baby out is everything. Everything. Unless you've had a lot of babies and you have a zipper down there that just opens up. But if it's your first baby, then the position is everything. So now I want to talk about pushing. Does anybody need a break before we talk about pushing? Go ahead. I need to get a drink too. At some point during your labor, you're going to start feeling the urge to bear down. Now, probably. There are exceptions to every rule. But you'll start with little urges to press down on your baby. It won't start with great big, where your body takes over and starts pushing. You'll start with little urges to where it feels like maybe you are kind of feeling pressure, like you want to have a bowel movement. You're starting to get a little urge like that. Okay? When you get any of these little urges, let your body move with those urges. Push with them or press down on them just as hard as your body is telling you to. So it may just be a little, where you're just feeling a little bit of a urge to grunt with it. Okay? That's not pushing your baby out. That's pressing down and directing the contraction downward. Try this kind of breathing. Okay? You take a deep cleansing breath. Fill your lungs up with as much air as you can and blow it out. As these contractions are coming stronger and faster, you'll have to get quick at your cleansing breath. And then you'll take a breath in and breathe out and breathe in and breathe out until you feel that little urge to push down on your baby. When that happens, take a breath in, press down on the baby in one of these positions that Janae was showing you. Press down on the baby and grunt it out. So just press down for 1 second. If you do that, you will notice a tremendous relief of pain. If it feels good and it relieves the pain, that's exactly what you should be doing. If it doesn't feel good, if it hurts, then you naturally will back off because you don't have any drugs on board and you can feel everything. You're not going to hurt yourself. Okay? As the contraction becomes stronger and stronger and that urge to push down on the baby becomes stronger, you can get to where you're pushing down for 2 seconds and then releasing it. Don't be afraid to push down as hard and as long as your body is telling you to do. Never go against your body's natural urges. For anyone to tell you it's wrong to go against your body's natural urges, then I say they're not a natural-minded person. If you're following rules, then you're not a natural-minded person. Go with your body's urges, okay? Now, you may come to the point where you're feeling good, strong, bearing down, where you can't stop but push and push and push and push. I don't care what you're dilated to. Go with it. Bear down if you want to. If it feels good, push with it. If it feels right. Now, I want to dispel the theory of pushing before 10 centimeters causing the cervix to swell. Now, like I said in my last class, in my training and during my early years of midwifery, it was very vogue for midwives to help women in labor by doing a lot of vaginal exams. And sometimes even keeping their hand in there for several minutes at a time and guiding women through labor. During this time is when I learned the most about the cervix. But I learned that there comes a point, the cervix goes through different changes during labor. It will thin and thin and thin, and get thinner and thinner, and then about 8 centimeters, it will start to swell a little bit. Okay, and this could happen earlier. It'll start to swell a little bit. It's not so much swelling, but it's filling up with blood. It fills up with blood to allow it to open and stretch to that final 10 centimeters. Your perineum can do the same thing. The outside of your body will do the same thing. It will too also fill up with blood and get ready so that it can stretch. The whole vaginal area fills up with blood. It becomes very vascular so it can stretch. This is what the cervix does. It will feel like it's swelling, and then it will get to where it's like the little lip around a balloon. You know the balloon thing that you blow on, that little beady lip? It'll feel like that. And then it will get paper thin and open. So this is very, very common in labor. Quite often, one time I was in the hospital as a doula, and this woman was getting huge urges to bear down, and the nurse kept checking her and saying, you can't bear down, you can't bear down, you're not 10 centimeters yet. But she also kept telling her that the head wasn't applied to the cervix and that the head needed to come down further. Well, then she checked her and she said, see, you're starting to swell. You shouldn't have been pushing. And I said, well, is the head applied to the cervix? She goes, no. Now you tell me how pushing made that cervix swell if the head isn't even applied to the cervix. The cervix swelled because it was ready to open. And when the nurse left, by what she had told me, I knew it was time. What?
Do you want her?
Did I want her?
Yeah. You said
I wouldn't mind using her again on the pushing.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cut this part because I'm wrinkling my nose. Okay, anyway.
You're the editor.
Yeah. So when the nurse left, I said, go ahead with your urges and push. And she pushed, and then all of a sudden she felt the pressure on her pelvic floor, and the doctor almost didn't make it in time to catch the baby. So go with your urges if you don't want to delay your labor. It's ridiculous to fight what your body's trying to do. Your body knows exactly how to have a baby. The problem is us. The problem is us and all the books we've read and all the people we've listened to and everybody who's told us what all the rules are and what all the fads are. And if you don't do this, then you're not cool. And so everybody has to have their baby this way. I know midwives who basically insist that every single one of their clients delivers under the water. Because that is the way to have a baby. Every baby should be born under the water. I support women who want to have water birth. But I don't think that that human babies were meant to be born underwater. I think whales were. You know, whales are mammals that were meant to be born underwater. But I don't think that our Creator created us to have babies underwater. However, I do believe that we are water-loving animals, and water brings us great comfort. So to labor underwater, for me, is a godsend. I love to labor in nice, toasty water. And if the baby happens to come out in the water, oh well. But to say, you know, you've got to have your baby in the water, and so they hurry and run and get in the water so they can have their baby, they've missed the best advantage of the water, and that's the labor part. So anyway, no rules. You don't have to deliver underwater, and you don't have to not deliver underwater. It's totally up to you what you're feeling instinctively you need to do. But a lot of people want to have a water birth because it's a novelty of it. They want to be able to tell their friends they had a water birth so they can be in the water birth cool group. Okay, so the fad will come and go. All right, so there comes a point where you get in the big, strong urges to bear down. If you've had a baby before, this stage will go very quickly. This is second stage of labor, and it's the pushing stage. If you haven't had a baby before, this can last a very long time if you don't do it right. And like I say, what's the biggest problem? Maternal exhaustion. We don't want maternal exhaustion. We want to use your strength when it's time to use that strength to your best advantage. Now, another problem I want to go back and mention really quick is there is a critical period during labor when the contractions are brutal, when they're very strong and they're very, very hard, and I love them. They are my favorite contractions because that's what brings us cute little bundles. They do more work than 20 of the other contractions put together, probably 50 of the other contractions put together. These brutal contractions can dilate you if you don't hinder the labor with the wrong position and with the wrong kind of, you know, tensing up and fighting it and things like that. If you don't hinder it, I've seen people go from like 4 or 5 to 10 in one contraction. I have felt it with my fingers. I have felt that happen. And it's amazing. These are what we're waiting for. This is what we waited 9 months for. This is what we've gone through all this labor for, was to get up to the contractions that are finally going to do something. Okay? So these contractions, these are the contractions that do something. Now, if these contractions are not allowed to do what they were designed to do because you're hindering them, then they're only going to last so long because your body can only take so many of these because they take a lot of juice out of you. So if you're hindering it by being in the position that feels the best and, you know, things like that, then eventually those contractions will slow down and go away. And you no longer will have our favorite, greatest, best friend contractions anymore. That's when we run into a problem. We run into the problem where, okay, her contractions have piddled out. Now what do we do? Well, we can try and feed her because maybe her blood sugar has gotten low, so we'll try and give her some sugar. Here, have some chocolate chips, maybe that'll do it. We try giving her some herbs that'll help her get contractions. And sometimes we even have to put her to bed and tell her to try to sleep so her body can rejuvenate so that contractions, those hard contractions, will pick up again. It's such a headache, it's such a pain. For you, not so much for me, for you it's such a pain. Now, we do have a really good resource over at the hospital. We can go in there and get hooked up to Pitocin and that'll kick in those contractions again, but who wants to do that? So that's one of the biggest reasons for hospital transport. Maternal exhaustion means labor halt. They're all one and the same. Maternal exhaustion, labor halt. Labor isn't working anymore. So during this critical period, we want to use those contractions to our best advantage. Okay, now we're going to start bearing down. You'll start getting this urge to bear down. And for you girls who haven't had a baby before, I want to give you one warning. Please don't be afraid of it. It is the best feeling in the world. When your cervix opens to 10 centimeters and it's gone, now remember, what's the pain in labor? It's the pulling open of the cervix. So when that cervix becomes flush with the vagina, so there's no more cervix anymore, that pain that you're feeling releases and goes away. And if you pay attention, you'll know when it happens. These contractions will just be so painful you want to get away from them, and all of a sudden, poof, you go, oh, and there's this amazing relief. I have felt it before, and it's amazing. That means you've gone to full dilation. Some more little signs. If you feel pain right up here, right on top of your pubic bone, that's the cervical lip getting pinched off between the head and the pubic bone. No big deal, it'll go over, but that position that Janae showed where she went on her back and pulled her knees way up, that'll get rid of it too. Okay, because that pulls the pubic bone out of the way and gets rid of it. Another thing too, when that baby starts descending the pelvis, all of a sudden women start saying, oh, my back. When you start getting that sharp pain in your back, yay! Do you know what that means? That means your baby is descending into the pelvis and you're almost done. Bring the baby past it. Bring the baby past, it's because the baby is bumping it up against this right here, and it's causing you this pain. Bring the baby past it down into the pelvis, and that won't hurt anymore. So when you have that pain and that baby comes down, you'll know the baby's down in the pelvis, that it's past there, okay? There's quite often during labor when we as midwives celebrate. What, your back hurts? Wonderful! It hurts up here? Wonderful! This is great news. We want to see labor as a wonderful, awesome thing. Because when you're done with it, you're going to forget what hurt about it, but you're going to remember what felt good. And you're going to look at your baby and say, I remember that head coming through my pelvis and out into the world. I mean, some people think, you're crazy. You want to feel that? Yes, I do. I want to feel it because that's my baby. And that's a product of my body, and I want to feel everything. Because labor is the most beautiful sensations a woman will ever experience. Why would you want to get an epidural to save yourself from 15 minutes of excruciating pain and also rob you of hours of beautiful, beautiful sensations and that connection with your baby? Why? There is a price you pay. Epidural, fine. If that's what you want, that's fine. But there's a price you pay for getting that epidural. There's something that you're giving up. Just like with anything. You don't want to go out and work in your yard and sweat and, you know, fine, you don't have to. You can sit and play video games and watch TV. But there's a price you pay. You're not going to get that joy of working the ground and seeing your flowers grow and your vegetables grow. See what I'm saying? In life, everything that's hard has a reward. Everything that's easy has a price. And it just depends on what reward, what price you want to pay. But don't be afraid of doing something that's hard. It'll be so worth it. And I've not met one woman who wasn't happy that they experienced the birth of their baby. So, all right, moving on. You're pushing. We keep going to pushing. I keep getting distracted. Okay, you're pushing. We want the right position. Janae? Any of these positions that Janae showed you are perfect positions for pushing. You can stand, you can squat, you can lay down, you can be on your side. On your side is kind of, that's not the most common. You can be on your hands and knees. Any of these positions are wonderful for pushing. Don't set your mind on a position, well, I want to do it in hands and knees. That would be really cool. Just go with the flow and see how you feel at the time, okay?
Squirrel.
No, there wasn't a squirrel. It was just a blank. It was a blank. Okay, so, I was going to say that if you have had a previous birth where your perineum tore, hands and knees is a really good position to deliver in because it tends to take a little pressure off the perineum. Now the perineum is the skin between the vagina and the rectum. That's the part that usually tears or gets cut if you get an episiotomy or a tear. So because of that, we want positions that's going to bring that baby through your vagina, not through your rectum, right? But to bring the baby down to the vagina, to the perineum, you might want to use a different position. So we're going to put Janae in a semi-sit. In fact, let's put you against this wall here. Okay, we're going to put her in a semi-sit because by this time, in the later part of labor, remember how I said that there's this rule that women have to be upright during labor? And sometimes the doula or the midwife or the nurse will say, you need to be upright, you need to walk around, you need to get in this position. They sit you up, drop the bed, and they're trying to get everybody upright. As an experienced midwife, I'll tell you something that I've noticed during labor, is there comes a point where a woman always says, I just want to lay down. To even to the point where sometimes they get lightheaded and they feel like they're going to pass out if they don't lay down. That's because the baby needs to come under the pubic bone and she needs to lay down. Follow your instincts and lay down. So she's in a semi-sit and the contraction comes, and let's say this is a really tight baby. If it's not a tight baby and the baby's coming through the pelvis just fine, we're not even going to coach you on how to push. We're just going to let you go with whatever. If the baby sounds good, quite often babies will start to stress out as their head gets squished, especially if there's a cord around their neck that's tightening as the baby's moving down. So during the second stage labor, we watch the heartbeat very closely. We're going to monitor after each contraction. We'll listen and see how the baby did during that contraction. Monitoring during contractions is hard because the contraction makes it hard to listen. But anyway, so she's going to get herself in a really good position when the contraction comes. Take a deep cleansing breath, Janae. Okay, wait for the contractions building up, and then grab under your legs and pull them up and out, chin on chest, and she's going to push down and hold the push down. Now I'm talking about if the baby is tight, if the baby's in trouble, or if you're just tired of being pregnant and you want it out. Okay? You can go like this. They call this purple pushing. Take a deep breath. You put your chin down on your chest and you hold it to the count of 10, and then show them how to release their breath and bring it back in. Okay, now she's going to push, and she's going to push really hard until she can't hold that breath anymore. Okay, stop. Did you see what she did? She let all her air out, and then she took another breath. Now, sometimes we'll tell women, take a quick breath and push again, and show them what they do wrong. Yeah, sometimes instead of letting the air out, going and coming right back again on the push, they'll go, you know, there's no more room in there. You've got to let the air out and breathe in. Another thing they do wrong is they go, now they just lost about 5 seconds of pushing time. The contractions in pushing stage don't last as long as the contractions in transition. You have enough time for about 3 hard pushes. And I'm showing you this in case you need it. We don't always do this. But this is how to get a baby out fast if you need to. Okay? Or if you want to. Go with the pushing and enjoy it. And purple pushing has its place. There is a rule now against purple pushing. No rules. You can use this. And if you've got a baby in trouble and the mom doesn't know how to purple push and the practitioner doesn't know how to tell her how to purple push, then you're out of luck. Now, a lot of times if we want to get a baby out really fast, we might even, if the baby needs to come under the pubic bone, we might even lay the mom down and get her back in that position where her bottom's up off the ground, because that opens up all this space and brings the baby really fast. But once the baby comes to a crown, we're not going to, bring your legs way up like you did. We're not going to have her push the baby out that way because her vagina is pointing toward the ceiling. And that's going to push the baby right through her perineum. So we want her to be more sitting up. Once the baby crowns, we get her more in a sit-up or even in a squat. So you can move around a lot in labor. Okay, thanks. So during the pushing stage, generally what we do with most women is we just allow them to go with the sensations of their body, and we watch the baby. This isn't going to hurt anything, okay? It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to make you more likely to tear. It's not going to do any of those things. There's also new rules popping up about perineal massage. And that's up to you. If you want the midwife to do perineal massage, we use olive oil and we stretch the perineum so that you're less likely to tear. What I really prefer to do is put hot wet towels on the mother during the expulsion of the baby to help her to tear. What the hot, wet washcloth does is, you know, if you put a hot, wet washcloth on your arm and you pulled it off, your arm would be red. That's because the heat brings blood flow to the surface, and that's what we're doing with the hot, wet washcloth. Okay, Janae, I want to show them some comfort measures. I'm glad you're still here. Okay, back towards the audience, please. Okay, you've got triangles. You've got 2 dimples here, and there's where your butt crack starts. Okay, now, how can I do this so the camera can see it? We're going to do, do kind of this way.
That way?
Okay. You're going to make a diamond with your hand like this. Okay? And you're going to put the palm of your hand right in the middle of her butt cheeks right here. Okay? And go like this. And when she's having a contraction, you put pressure there and you're turning your hands like this. So you're bringing, and this is a hip squeeze. This is really, really helpful for pain relief. Right here in this triangle is the sacrum. That's where women feel a lot of pain during labor. And that's where you would put pressure during contractions, or where even sometimes a woman might want you to massage. And just anything that distracts her from the pain she's feeling there. Massage, some people want your fist and just to push as hard as you can. You won't know what you want until you're in labor. But those are things we do. Now the hot towels. We use a crock pot. At the hospital I used to use the water in the sink, but you'll want to bring a crock pot to the hospital because the water in the sink is hot enough for about 5 seconds and then it gets too cold because it's just not hot enough. You want the water to be hot enough to where you can put your hand in it and grab the towel out, but you can't leave your hand in there. It's too hot for that. And we put on gloves. We get the towel out. We use a hand towel, you know, about this big because a washcloth isn't going to hold the heat long enough. Pick up the hand towel, squeeze it all the way out, and then keep it warm and hold it in your hands to keep it warm until she has a contraction. Now, how can we tell that Janae's having a contraction? You'll see her react to it. She might just take a breath and start breathing, okay? As soon as she takes that breath, put the hot towel on just like that to where, and you put it on before she lets that breath out. So she takes the breath in, the towel goes on, and she goes, She will, because it feels so good. She'll just go, oh. Now, I'll warn you guys something about hot towels. Once you start them, you're committed. So, if I've got a nice big team, like I've got a sister and a mom and my assistant, I'll start the hot towels earlier. But as long as she's dealing with her labor okay without hot towels, I usually hold off a little bit because it can be very exhausting to be doing hot towels for 6 hours. So I wait until she needs it, and then I start doing the hot towels, and then she loves me and doesn't care that I didn't do it for those, you know, for her early labor. It still feels good in early labor, but another reason that I hold off is because it's the contrast that feels so good. The longer you can wait before you get the hot towels, the better they'll feel, because you don't get used to them, you don't get accustomed to them. Same with getting in the bath. When a mom gets in the bath, we have a great big cup, and when she's having a contraction, you just dip water and very, very slowly and steadily pour water over her tummy when she's having a contraction. When the contraction's over, you stop pouring the water because you want there to be that contrast so that she is, because the brain starts to become used to something, you know what I'm saying? And if you stop and you wait till the contraction starts and then start doing it, then the brain will focus on that water that's pouring over her tummy. It's called effleurage, or massage in, I think it's something that means massage in French. But effleurage can also be done with olive oil and fingertips, where you're rubbing the mom's tummy like this. Can you think of any more? Yeah, pushing on the knees. Sometimes we push on the knees But the problem with pushing on the knees is that I think that the big reason that it relieves pain is because it tips the pelvis the wrong direction. So I try not to do too much knee pushing, and that's where if a mother is, okay, let's get on the ground. I'll do this to give her relief for a contraction or two, but I don't like to do this the whole time. But you take, and you, right here, there's two little indents in the knees, and I'll usually put you can do it with your fingers like this, or you can put the heel of your hand right under the kneecap, and you push a steady push on her like this during the contraction. But it seems to, when you're pushing that pelvis back like this, it seems to drop that pubic bone because you're pushing the legs and it's doing this. And that will relieve the pain because it's taking the baby up off the cervix. So I do that sometimes, but I think it's a little counterproductive. But if a mom needs relief, it's good for that. Okay, so, all right. Anybody have questions with pushing stage? Okay, once you get to, your goal is to bring the baby underneath the pubic bone to where it's coming out. And you're getting a really good crown. Because even though the baby is here and it's made that rotation, it's still got some hindrance there. And you want to get it to where it's starting to crown like this, okay? So you've got the crown. When that happens, you know that baby is not hindered by the pelvis anymore. And at this point, these babies will come very quick if you let them. So this is where sometimes a little scream will come in, and it can be useful. But I prefer to blow myself. I'm not a screamer, but a scream can work. If you really want to scream, now's the time to do it. You get to do it now. So at this point, the baby can come very fast. There's no bones in the way anymore. She has come past the bones, and she's coming to a good crown. And she will come very, very fast, and she'll open this really, really fast. If you've got a nice pliable perineum and we're not worried about it tearing, then we don't really worry too much. But at this point, your practitioner will tell you, easy, 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 don't push, don't push, don't push. And at that point, you can either blow, because the contraction is still pushing. Even if you're not pushing, the contraction is still pushing. So you don't want to push. It's like a pressure valve. Let some of that pressure out. You know on the Flintstones where they have that little bell, woo, beginning of the Flintstones? That's what I think of it as, is that pressure release. Let out some of that pressure out of your mouth. When you're pushing and you're really trying to move that baby out into the world and you really mean business, you don't want to breathe while you're pushing, you don't want to yell, you don't want to talk, you don't want to scream, because you're taking the pressure off. You want to just push. It'll feel better and it'll be more productive. You take a deep breath in, close your mouth, and push. If you need to scream, scream out your bottom. So here it is. Now, the best thing you can do at this point, the very best thing, is to put your hand down there and guide your baby out yourself. I have seen more success and more intact perineums by having moms guide their babies out themselves. Because when you're up here and everything else is happening down here, all you realize up here is that there's pain down there and you want it to stop. Because this is the burning, the ring of fire that everybody talks about. Up here, you're not realizing that if you just push really hard and get it over with, that you could tear. You don't care. It hurts, you want it to stop. That's all you care about. Now when you put your hand down there, all of a sudden you realize, oh, I have skin down there. And instinctively, you will not hurt yourself. So you put your hand down there, and you guide the baby out yourself. When you are feeling the head and you're feeling your perineum, your brain will do it exactly how it's supposed to, better than any midwife can do it. Okay? So the baby comes out, the head is born, and I don't want to force this baby through the pelvis, but the head is born, and she will make a rotation. We talked about this last week. She'll make a rotation, and then if you leave it alone, it'll drop down. You'll see this top shoulder, and then you push, and this shoulder comes out. Now, after the head comes out, we usually wait until the next contraction before the baby comes, but it depends on the baby. Once this baby comes to life and starts attempting to breathe, then we want her out. The practitioner is going to feel for a cord around the neck. If there's a cord around the neck, we either take it over the head or we lift it up and birth the baby through it. Either way is appropriate. Cords around the neck are not a complication. Very rarely are they a complication. They can be a problem, but they're usually not. Okay, so the shoulders come out, baby squirts out. We want that baby to go straight here on your chest, nowhere else. And if you're birthing in the hospital, demand it, because it's very, very important that that baby go here. There's several reasons. Warmth. You can warm this baby better than anybody can warm the baby. I don't care how sophisticated the warmer is in the hospital. But you can warm the baby. The baby needs that comfort. Has anyone ever heard of Le Boyer? Le Boyer was a big fad back in the 70s. And he had a little bathtub of water. And they'd take the baby and they'd put it in this little bathtub, and this baby would open its eyes and look around. They'd say, look how wonderful it is. This baby is just so happy, so content. He's back in water where he's very familiar. The baby will do the same thing here. He's back with his mommy. He smells her, he feels her, he hears her heartbeat, he hears her voice, he hears her excitement and her acceptance of him, and they bond. And the baby opens his eyes and looks at mom. And I take some painting classes, and I've painted a few things, and this is one of my bucket list things, is to paint this picture of that baby looking up at its mother for the first time with those big wide eyes. Now when the baby is not here, but over in a warmer, that's a crime. When this baby opens hers or his eyes to look at its world for the first time, it needs to be mommy. It doesn't need to be a warmer or nurses or, who are these people, that sort of thing. There needs to be something familiar. Because I may be wrong, you guys. This may be a bunch of crap. But if I'm wrong, I have no regrets. If my critics are wrong, there's a lot of regrets. But I believe that those very first moments of life could possibly play a big part in forming the personality of this person. Maybe not the personality, but maybe their self-image of themselves. Their very first moments of life, they've just been through the birth canal. My goodness. That's got to hurt, or it's got to be hard, or it's got to be, something. And I'm not dissing the birth canal, because I think it's great for babies to come through there. I think they need to fight their way into the world. That makes them stronger. But after they've been through that, they need mommy, and mommy needs them. If she doesn't get this baby right here and have the product of what she's just been through, then it's anticlimactic. So baby needs to be here. If baby needs oxygen or stimulation or anything like that, it can be done right here. And there's been maybe 2 or 3 times in my entire career where I've had to resuscitate a baby, full-on resuscitation. I can do that right there in front of mom. Because if I have mom to talk to the baby while I'm doing that, then that baby's going to respond a lot better. I don't take that baby more than 2 feet away from its mom's chest when I'm resuscitating them. It's happening right down on the floor, right next to her, or maybe right on her, in her arms. We're doing that. Okay?
How much more time are you going to do?
I'm almost done.
Okay. Probably not. Okay.
Yep, I'm almost done. Because we're almost done having a baby. Okay. Now,
but then there's 18 years after that.
well, we're not teaching that in this
Oh,
class.
okay.
You're 14.
Yes, that one of my friends just wrote on Facebook, I just potty trained my last baby. I'm totally done. It was just, I hate potty training, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, you're not done. You haven't driver trained yet. You gotta driver train all of them. That is worse than potty training. It's more dangerous. Okay, so baby's right here. Take your baby and look at her. Let her look up at you and talk to her, and you will see natural instincts come out. The mom will naturally touch the baby's cheek and touch the head and feel the hands and look at the feet. And it's just so beautiful, that interaction. Daddy needs to be right here too. It's really, really important. Now, the reason I didn't mention Daddy at first is because Daddy can be over at the warmer. So, but Mommy can't be at the warmer. So that's why it needs to be here in Mommy's arms. Then something very miraculous takes place at this moment, and this is a critical period that cannot be recovered later. All of a sudden, about 5 minutes later, the mom's pituitary gland will shoot out a big surge of oxytocin. And then that placenta that's been hanging on for this baby's dear life for 9 months, well, 6 months, is all of a sudden going to shear off the wall of the placenta and release. When that happens, this baby needs to be here. If this baby isn't here, that mom is still going to bond. She's still going to imprint. Who's she going to imprint with? Her doctor who's sewing her up and releasing, delivering the placenta? Is she going to imprint with her husband? He's over at the warmer with the baby. She's going to imprint with her doctor. And that's why, I don't know if I should say that, I can cut it. Obstetricians have the highest rate of infidelity. Obstetricians. Because their patients bond with them. They fall in love with them. Okay, I'm not going to cut this part. I've had so many women tell me, I love my doctor. And I ask them, do you really love your doctor? Yes. Yeah, I really love my doctor. And they do. They mean it. Now, the ones who will admit it will say, yes, I really love my doctor. I know a girl who wanted a home birth so badly, but she could not bear to not be around her doctor. She had a hospital birth because she loved her doctor. Not because she loved hospital birth, but because she loved her doctor. Now, she did have one home birth, and that was when her doctor took a leave of absence for a while, wasn't delivering babies, and she had a home birth. Loved her home birth. Was going to have a home birth next time, but couldn't bear the thought of not having that opportunity to be with her doctor one more time. And I've met several of these women. They really do bond with them. Now, can you imagine if it's that powerful, how powerful that's going to be if you do that with your baby, with your infant? Now, you can bond with your baby while you're breastfeeding. I'm not talking about bonding. I'm not talking about love, although I did mention loving the doctor, but more importantly, they imprinted with their doctor, and they interpreted it as love. I'm talking about imprinting. It's that moment where if the animal doesn't imprint with their baby, and this is documented in veterinarian science. If that animal doesn't imprint with its mother within that imprinting time, and I watched it done on a documentary on TV with baboons. The baboon had a C-section. After this, the baboon woke up from its C-section. They brought the baby monkey to the mother, and the mother swatted at it. She hissed at it, and she didn't want anything to do with it. That's the animal kingdom. Now, we as intelligent human beings can counteract that with reasoning. I was pregnant. A baby came out of me. This baby sort of looks like me, so this baby must be mine. Right? It's got the same little armband as I have, so this baby must be mine. But I'll tell you, with my first baby, I questioned, is this really my baby? Is it really my baby? Now, it's not about love, it's about knowing your baby, it's about making that connection, and that is just as important as oxygen to this baby. Oxygen can be given to her while she's on your chest if she needs it. But make sure that she's there and you imprint with her. Dads, don't Don't come and take the baby away and say it's my turn to hold her. You need to let your wife imprint with the baby. She needs to have this baby in her arms a minimum of 30 minutes, and ideally at least an hour. And go and you can breastfeed your baby right away. They usually want to breastfeed about 10 or 15 minutes after they're born. And at that point, that helps that helps the bleeding to stop. It helps the uterus to contract. Placenta. I'm going to stop talking about bonding for a minute, because bonding and placenta or imprinting and placenta go hand in hand. But there is a placenta. You are not done having a baby until your placenta's out and your bleeding is under control. So when the baby's born, they'll say, "Oh, I'm done," because then you're going to be a higher risk for hemorrhage if you do that. Okay? Keep thinking. Keep thinking about what your body's doing. Focus on your placenta. Focus on your baby. That helps you to focus on your placenta, is by looking at your baby. And the baby's also laying here and putting pressure on your tummy. You'll get a little urge to push. First, there'll be a little gush of blood when the placenta releases. You'll feel that. That means your placenta is released. Wait until you get a contraction, and then release your placenta mentally. Don't be afraid of it. The baby hurt. The baby has bones. The placenta does not have bones. It doesn't hurt. However, I describe it as feeling like you're swallowing something on a sore throat. Your throat's sore, and you're going to swallow this piece of food. That's what birthing a placenta feels like. So it's not that bad, but when it comes out, it's a tremendous relief. And a lot of women will go, "Oh, my stomach, it's so flat." So let go of your placenta. A woman who is having a psychological problem with letting go, with releasing mentally, will be more likely to retain her placenta. So let go of it. Concentrate on it. Put your hand on your tummy and think about it if you need to. After the placenta is out, put your hand on your uterus and focus on keeping your uterus contracted so that the bleeding will shut off. Once the bleeding is stable and you're nursing your baby, then you're done. And then the party starts, and then the most joy and the greatest moment of your life, having this brand new baby. And knowing what you've accomplished has just happened. And I have to tell you that the reason I had 8 babies isn't because I was irresponsible. I really, really loved being pregnant. Of course, I love sex too, so that was a... But I really loved being pregnant. And I loved giving birth. I loved labor. I didn't so much like the contractions during transition. I actually really hated it. But at the same time, I enjoyed it. I hated it. It was such a love-hate relationship. And then once that baby came out, I had never in my life felt so much joy as I felt when I realized I was a mother for the first time. And that was why would I not want to do that as many times as I can? To me, it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And I'm so excited for you guys and what you get to go through, and a little bit jealous because I'm past that point in my life. And I would have had more if I could. I really would have. I love children, and the world doesn't see it that way. The world sees this as a negative thing. But hold your head high and be proud, because there's nothing more important in this world than motherhood. There is nothing that you can give to this planet that is of more use or more benefit to this planet than to raise good, honest, law-abiding citizens. There's nothing more you can do than to raise happy children. And I feel like I want to say it in Amen. Anyway, it is my testimony. It is. It's what I believe in. It is my religion. And there is a God, and He has created this process, and it's a perfect process. And there's nothing that's going to empower you more than this. And I honestly believe that this is God's greatest gift to women. And we do have Eve to thank for it. So have good births. And I want to go through just not tonight, we're done tonight. But I do want to demonstrate a relaxation technique. And so I'll probably have another class somewhere where I have you bring pillows and I demonstrate the relaxation techniques that you can practice. So,
For some, it better be sooner than others, right?
yeah, yeah. So if you're interested in